the problem, maybe more than half. Maybe there's many parts of the problem, but that is academia and the ubiquitous ideological sort of brainwashing that's going on and how it affects the entirety of society. The other half is that of this is the media, such as it is. And there's nobody better. Tim Grosclose is a professor of economics at George Mason University, Adam Smith Chair at the Marcatus Center, and he's written a fantastic book. And I even cite it in my book on freedom of the press. It's called Left Turn: How Liberal Media Bias Distorts the American Mind. And in part, here's what he says. What happens when our view of the world is filtered through the eyes, ears, and minds of such a liberal group? He says, as I demonstrate using objective social scientific methods, the filtering prevents us from seeing the world as it actually is. Instead, we see only a distorted version of it. It is as if we see the world through a glass that magnifies the facts that liberals want us to see and shrinks the facts that conservatives want us to see. He writes later, perhaps worst of all, media bias feeds on itself. That is, the bias makes us more liberal, which makes us less able to detect the bias, which allows the media to get away with more bias, which makes us even more liberal, and so on. All of this means that the political views that we currently see in Americans are not their natural views. We see only an artificial, distorted version of those views. Professor, welcome, and let me suggest to you, I'd like your take on this, that it's worse now than ever, particularly given the fact that we have Donald Trump as our president. Do you agree?
I agree completely, yes. This whole point about Tom Cotton, you remember when the New York Times said, no, we can't run that op-ed? You remember who protested? It wasn't the opinion writers of the New York Times, it was the journalists, it was the news writers. The point in my book is that I asked the thought experiment. Suppose you read the content from journalists and you asked yourself the question, what if instead of knowing that it was a news story, what if instead you thought this was a speech by a politician? What would you guess is the ideology of that would-be politician? And one thing I found in my book, I said, just about all the mainstream media is to the left, but not quite as left as a mainstream Democrat. What the New York Times journalists did, I would argue, was even left, more left than what the average Democrats in Congress are doing. Just watch any time on C-SPAN, whenever there's a major bill, Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, whenever they introduce a bill, the Democrats will have, say, 2 hours for debate. The first thing they will do is say, I give half my time to the Republicans. The New York Times journalists, that was just beyond the pale for them to even think of giving any time to someone like Tom Cotton. So I argue the New York Times journalists, definitely, although maybe when I wrote my book, they acted not quite as left as the average Democrat in Congress. Now they're acting even more left than the average Democrat in Congress.
But doesn't it underscore one of the points in your book, which is this is self-fulfilling, self-generating, and so it gets worse and worse and worse. Less in terms of diversity of viewpoints, less in terms of tolerance, and much more ideological?
Yeah, I agree. So people are getting their information from the mainstream media. They have no idea what's going on the other side. But one little anecdote on this. So there's a scholar named John McWhorter, who is a professor at Columbia University. I would call him something of a right-leaning moderate. He's African-American man. He wrote about the police killings, and he said, yeah, I'm not sure the police are racist, but where are the names of the white people being killed? And he said, I think there really is a problem. After he said that, though, people sent in, here are the white people killed. And he got this list, and he said, wow, I didn't know of this. Because we only hear about the black people that are killed. And sure enough, some of us have been reporting these statistics by the Washington Post. Washington Post has gathered this database from 2015 to 2019 of all the police killings, and you look at these numbers, it's actually white people have been killed. Of all the police killings, it's about 50% are white, only about 25% are black. But the news is incredibly disproportionately, you only see the black killings. So if your information only came from mainstream media, you would think, oh, only black people are being killed by the police, when that's not the case at all. So I'd argue this is one more example of how the media lies.
So let me just interrupt you there, and what the statistics also show is that police are not running around killing people. So we need to be very clear about that, because of this movement now that's talking about disbanding police and so forth. The people who are running around killing people are the people in the streets, people in neighborhoods, people in communities who are running around killing people, as a matter of fact. But the police are not running around killing people. And back to your book, so we have this this false reality that's fed to us each and every day. Congress acts on it. They can't act fast enough. They want to create new holidays. They want to nationalize local policing. The fact that these cities are run by hardcore left-wing Democrats, and many of these states are as well, and they take no responsibility for it whatsoever. How does the average person out there get factual information? They're simply not getting it from so-called newsrooms in this country, Professor.
Yeah. That's part of my book, is to try to actually give numbers to say, like, this is the extent to which this media outlet is left, and this is the extent to which this media outlet is rightward. And I put numbers on these, and so people say, oh, you just watch Fox News, balance it out with MSNBC. The point of the book is that's not quite true, and at least I was limited in the data I had, but I analyzed only one Fox News show, and this was Special Report. At the time, Brit Hume was still the anchor. And I found that, yes, that show was rightward leaning, that it had, if anything, a conservative bias. But its conservative bias was less, something like about half, of the liberal bias of the mainstream media. So to put some numbers on this, I found New York Times was about 25 points biased to the left, whereas Special Report was only something like about half of the liberal bias of the mainstream media. So to put some numbers on this, I found New York Times was about 25 points biased to the left, whereas Special Report was only about 8 points biased to the right. So if you wanted a balanced set of news, what it means is you would have to watch Special Report about 3 times, devote about 3 times as many minutes to Special Report as you would to the New York Times if you wanted to get a perfectly balanced version of the news.